It looks like LIV Golf is still a pretty big bone of contention between a lot of parties. Greg Norman, who's spearheading the new tour, has been under constant attack for a lot of things. Most recently, he was called out by Brandel Chamblee for being a hypocrite. Let's look at this and some more news that's shaking up the golf world in this video. First, what's been going on with Greg Norman? If you've kept up with golf for the past few weeks, you know that there's a civil war going on between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour. Like with any other real war, people have to pick sides. Now, of course, he's basically the face of LIV. If you're familiar with golf, he barely needs an introduction. The 67-year-old Australian is pretty legendary, winning 89 professional tournaments, including but not limited to 20 PGA Tour tournaments. He stayed pretty loyal to the PGA Tour, which is why it's so surprising that he completely turned his back on it for the rival Saudi-backed LIV Golf Tour. Norman has understandably been wrapped up in a lot of controversy ever since this new competition started. A lot of current and former players have publicly criticized him for working with the Saudis. The PGA Tour even suspended and banned players who were taking part in the other tour. But despite this, a lot of players from the PGA Tour continue to leave it for LIV because they're paying really well. There's also a fair share of players who have been loyal to the PGA Tour though, and Brandel Chamblee is one of them, which is why the feud between the two started. Let's look at this now. Next, what happened between Chamblee and Norman? It's pretty clear that the two don't like each other at all. There's a lot that happened between them in just the past few days, so you might want to brace yourselves for this. The two had a back and forth for a while, but it all started when Brandel Chamblee said that Norman should definitely be kicked out of the Hall of Fame because of the fact that he's in charge of LIV Golf. That's a pretty bold statement to make, especially because once upon a time, Norman was the best golfer in the world for years. Even though he said this back in June, Norman didn't retaliate until recently. Of course, things got pretty nasty. Don't say we didn't warn you beforehand. So how did Greg Norman respond? It seems like Norman waited for the perfect opportunity to respond, and this came in an interview with a newspaper. He said that he feels very sorry for the PGA Tour. If there's one thing about golfers who have been in the game for long, they're pretty defensive about the PGA Tour. Of course, if you've played a certain tournament for literal decades, you'd hate to see it be discredited in front of the whole world. This sort of explains why Chamblee was so extreme in his views. He also took a direct jab at Chamblee in this interview. He said that the comments he made about him were simply laughable, and that he's nothing but a paid-talking bobblehead for the PGA Tour. Another thing that he said in the interview was that Chamblee never picked up his phone to talk to him. Now, things begin to heat up once Chamblee posts receipts. As you can imagine, Chamblee was not happy about the things Norman said about him in the interview. Soon after it came out, the interview was making rounds on Twitter and other social media, and it looks like he just couldn't sit back and watch. He posted a screenshot of a conversation between him and Norman on Twitter, which went viral pretty quickly. In the texts, Norman complimented him for being open about how he feels, saying that it's refreshing. Of course, the tone of the text is unclear, but the two seem pretty friendly with each other at this point. It looks like two friends just having a conversation and expressing their views on something, and this something is most probably LIV Golf. We can assume Chamblee was giving his nemesis thoughts on the new competition, which weren't so positive. How does this make Norman a hypocrite? In the screenshot, it looks like the two of them are pretty cordial with each other, like acquaintances are, but Chamblee sort of exposes Norman for being a hypocrite. Even though Norman hasn't commented on this expose yet, it looks like he will in the future, and he'll also have some more bones to pick with players in the PGA Tour. He has publicly called defenders of the tour monopolists who are trying to gatekeep the game of golf. What do you think? Is that true? Like we said, things are continuing to heat up in the golf world. Let's move on to some other golf news that you should know about. First, what does Trevino think about LIV Golf? Is it a threat to the PGA Tour? Like we said, LIV Golf has definitely shaken up the golf world. A lot of people are weighing in on the whole thing with their opinions about what the future of the Saudi-backed golf venture will look like. Trevino is one of them. He talked about how he thinks it won't last at all and that he hasn't given it much thought. Trevino is one of the oldest players who's played for the PGA PGA Tour, and has won a lot of tournaments throughout his career. This man has a lot of experience with golf, so his opinion definitely matters. On the New Breed of Golf with Michael Breed show on SiriusXM, he also talked about how it shouldn't affect the tour in the long run because of their legacy. He said the best course of action to take right now for the tour is just keep going the way they were before, and people will start to realize its worth, and LIV Golf will almost definitely fail. Overall, he said that he's very unmoved by the fact that people see this new competition as a threat, and he thinks that they shouldn't. We definitely have reason to believe that even though LIV will be successful, it's not going to completely overshadow the PGA Tour. At least that's what Lee Trevino thinks. Next, things are also looking up for the PGA Tour as McElroy signs with them. While it may look like the PGA Tour is lagging behind LIV Golf right now, some things are pointing to the opposite. Rory McElroy just signed to play in the PGA Championship, which will happen at Wentworth. This is huge because McElroy is doing this for the first time in 3 years. A huge reason as to why he's doing this could be that it'll boost the DP World Tour. Either way, it's still good for the tour. Another reason why McElroy joining this championship is big news is because a lot of great players have now left the PGA Tour for LIV Golf. These stars include such as Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, and Brooks Koepka. However, McElroy is the world's number 3 and has repeatedly criticized LIV Golf. Considering he's one of the best players in the world, we're sure the tour will be ecstatic about him repeatedly supporting them. The BMW PGA Championship has one of the biggest prize funds in the world right now. Before we tell you how much, do you want to guess? Hint, it's a lot. Right now, it's allegedly at a whopping $8 million. And the only tour that surpasses it is the DP World Tour, also known as the European Tour. This could also be one of the reasons why more players like Matt Fitzpatrick and John Ram, winners of the US Open, are going to compete. This championship looks like it'll be extremely competitive and fun, and fans can't wait till it starts. Finally, another renowned person in the world of golf joins LIV. While there's a lot of players joining LIV Golf, that's not the only thing the Saudi-backed golf venture needs. Most recently, broadcaster David Faraday is one of the people to switch sides. He's a pretty big name in golf broadcasting, and it looks like LIV is determined to go after all the greats. If you know Faraday, you know about his unique style and charismatic broadcasting personality, and this will definitely be a huge asset to LIV. His presence on NBC Golf and the Golf Channel is definitely hard to miss, just because of how interesting he makes golf sound. Even if you're not a fan, you'll tune in for his personality. It looks like David Faraday is very excited for this opportunity too, and in his own words, this is a one-of-a-kind opportunity to shape the history of golf for him and LIV. He also said he's very eager to contribute, especially because its vision is focusing on the future of golf. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of the feud between Chamblee and Norman? Will they be on the same page anytime soon? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.